Farmers in this country today face various problems. The major problem is that farmers do not receive a fair wage for their labor. The minimum support price at which they are forced to sell their agricultural produce is not adequate to provide them any kind of decent income. The average income of a farming family is supposed to be less than 3,000-4,000 rupees a month, which is not enough to support a family. Besides that, we have an additional problem in terms of forcible acquisition of land. A lot of land is acquired forcibly from farmers without giving them adequate rehabilitation, etc. And land which is not even required or not even used for any purpose, without any social impact assessment, without the consent of the farmers, etc. And lastly, farmers have been pushed into a system of agriculture, of chemical pesticide agriculture, and now with genetically modified seeds also, which is not sustainable, which is gradually depleting the fertility of the soil, which is poisoning our food and our farmers, who are now prone to much more diseases and cancer, etc. Swaraj Abhiyan has started this Jai Kisan Andolan precisely to address all these problems and issues of the farming community and bring them center stage in our national politics, so that minimum support price is increased and farmers receive a decent remuneration for their labor, so that compulsory acquisition of land is avoided without proper social impact assessment and without the consent of the farmers, and so that we can move towards a more sustainable form of agriculture, towards organic farming. One of the good things that the UPA government had done was to bring this new Land Acquisition Act of 2013. This act provided two good things. One was that before acquisition of land, of any large parcel of land, a social impact assessment would have to be done to determine whether the purpose for which land was being acquired was in greater public interest than the existing use of that land. And the second was that if land was being acquired for public-private partnerships or for private organizations, etc., then the consent of at least 70 to 80% of the farmers would be necessary before that land could be acquired. Unfortunately, the Modi government has brought in a land acquisition amendment bill by which they are proposing to do away with both these things, that is social impact assessment as well as consent for most of the land which is being acquired, because most of the land being acquired today is for public-private partnerships or in the name of public-private partnerships, where in fact the public part of that partnership is only to provide facilities to a private company for their profits. The whole project comes to be controlled by the private company and is used for their profits, but the facilities, including the acquisition of land, is done by the government. So this is a very retrograde amendment, and besides, there is no need to acquire so much land when there is enormous amount of surplus land already available with the government in the form of either land which was acquired for SEZs or for industries which have closed down, SEZs which have not come up, enormous amounts of unused lands which are lying with the Defense Department, enormous amount of wastelands which are not being put to any use in the country. Instead of using and utilizing all these lands for a proper public purpose, for the purpose for which the government needs it, government is hell-bent upon acquiring fertile agricultural land from farmers which they don't want to give. This is totally against public interest. We need to have a rational land use policy in the country, and part of the reason for the social impact assessment clause was to see whether the proposed land use of the land being sought to be acquired was in greater public interest than the use for which it was being used.